Hello, everyone. I'm Wendy Liebman, CEO and Chief Shopper at WSL Strategic Retail, and this is Future Shop. This is where I talk to disruptors, iconoclasts, cloud specialist Justin Honaman, who is my partner in all things cloud, AI, digital e-commerce, consumer packaged goods. He's a regular guest from Amazon Web Service. I can't remember the title. Right. It's so massive.
No, it doesn't matter. Something in retail and CPG.
Something and all
That's
of
right.
that. Anything web, something. Anyway, lovely to have you here. Happy end of year. Thank you for joining me in our regular cloud chat. Good to see you.
I'm glad to be here. And I could be chief shopper in my house for sure.
I thought great opportunity for you and I, as we do, just to sort of level set where we ended up, what we learned this year in terms of everything from digital, e-commerce, AI, all of those things. But before we get into that,
sure.
Black Friday, did you go shopping? What did you buy? What did everybody else buy? I know, but what did you do?
It's interesting to see in retail now, just that event, but also that event has been replicated throughout the year, not only with Amazon, but other retailers. And so certainly a lot of energy around Black Friday, a lot of excitement around, I think, holiday. There was a lot of question on like timing, because I think there's a 1 week less than other years and whatnot. But in general, from the retailers that I work with, a lot of excitement, a lot of confidence in the inventory that they have, even if they had to pull forward future inventory. A lot of confidence actually in their approach around technology and new investments and personalization and loyalty, which I think is interesting. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in terms of just acceleration in that space. And then from the consumer, I mean, I can just go off of the numbers that I've been watching around inflation, but certainly in most markets, inflation has come down. A lot of concerns still around price and cost, especially in grocery, of course. And so I think that tension is still playing out there, especially around like from the manufacturer brand to the retailer. So there's still a lot of tension there. And then
it's interesting you say that tension. I was just speaking at the NACDS year-end meeting in New York last week, and somebody said to me, "Oh, that was a grim presentation you made. You're usually so optimistic and whatever." And I said, "Listen, it's just that I'm not sure we're all listening. You know, that here we were on the 36th floor of the Mandarin, looking out over Central Park, talking about the wonders of the world. And when you look at all our How America Shops data and insight, you know, people are increasingly pessimistic. Concerned about what the coming year looks like. It's not that they're not shopping for Christmas, the holidays, whatever it is, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, all of the above, but they're just feeling not happy. And I think that was reflected in the election. So my message to this illustrious group was, are you listening? We know it, we intellectually know it, but are we listening? You know, people are challenging. They think we don't care about delivering quality anymore. So that was a lot of that conversation. So when you're saying that tension, I think, I would say to people,
I think from the industry perspective, there is a lot of tension. I mean, manufacturers of food products have shrunk what goes into those boxes and bags and charging the same price or higher. At some point, is there a threshold that customers say enough is enough? And then you have digital native brands that are trying to make their way in that market, and they're doing pretty well, by the way, in some of the niches in that area. And I think and then there's the high end, right?
Yeah. Then there's the luxury end, and even that, when you think about luxury retail, still being challenged. Right. We're seeing that with a lot of luxury fashion brands around the world, and even luxury beauty in some spaces. So you're right. There's a underlying tension that I think behooves us all to pay attention to. Otherwise, might get thrown out of office very quickly.
I think the thing is, though, for those listening, like if you're not reading and following a couple of different industry, I'll say news outlets, including yours, by the way, Wendy, and just what you provide, like you're kind of missing out. And not only that, but you could fall behind. It's good to follow what's going on and what you see from different data points with consumers and shoppers. It's good to follow what other retailers are doing or not doing. It's good to follow what's happening in the brand world if you're in retail trying to work with those brands. And now more than ever, I mean, this information is available right, anytime, anywhere. So it's just kind of no excuse for it. But I feel like a little bit people are like kind of getting back into their usual ways. Kind of the pre-COVID, things are better now, no supply chain issues, and I think that's a huge mistake if you're a brand or retailer, kind of going back to silo-ism and how we did things before.
And I think to your point, I mean, I know you are hugely engaged in absorbing cross industries, cross retailers, digital and physical. Yeah. And I know you have that. That's why I love your point of view. You have a very big view about what's going on. And it's the same for us. We are incredibly curious about unrelated things, right. And getting people out of their proverbial ivory towers, out of their own aisles, out of their own from their own shelf, to see some of the things they know already. I mean, that was my beginning of my presentation the other day. I tell you anything you don't already know. And they were like, why are we sitting here? I said, because you know it, but you don't see it. So to your point, I think that's a really important call to action. And even to your point, usually is go to things, get out.
Try it. So if you guys are watching or listening to this and you don't know what Wendy does, when she does her retail safaris, they're not just store tours like you're going to see in a couple weeks at NRF. Mm-hmm. Store tours, it's one thing, but curated, learning about what's going on in the store and what's happening behind the store to enable the store experience is a really big deal. And if you have stores, you should be curious. It's so easy and it's so interesting, right? And I think that's one thing, Wendy, you do really well. And the brand should care too. Yeah. I mean, because at the end of the day, their brand experience really ties to the retail experience.
And it's, as you well know, we did this event in London in October, and Justin was kind enough to recommend one of his colleagues from Amazon Web Service based out of Europe. And we had a great conversation with retailers in the UK. Yep. Traditional retailers, grocery retailers like CEO of Tesco, but we had Justin's colleague, Marco, as part of it. We had CPG people.
He was great.
Yeah, because, for the group who basically came from the US, which was a big ask, right? But there was so much learning from looking at the stores with the retailers, but also hearing the conversation, hearing the discussion about everything you just mentioned. So anyway, there's just so much to be learned. Over the last year, we've talked a lot about where we are in this AI journey, and tell me where we are at this moment.
Sure. Okay, well, let's remember, for those that haven't watched the other versions of this, AI is not new. It's been around since the 50s. In fact, most of your companies are probably using it in some form or fashion. So put that over here. And that includes what we call machine learning. So don't worry if you're not technical. We're not going IT today. Okay, then there all the excitement last 18, 24 months. I even have my bell here, generative AI. Every time someone would say it, I was all day long for 20 months, right? Now, it's, yes, super important. He's evolved so quickly. We're making huge investments in that space at Amazon, and because it's so transformational. And now, though, that's just becoming part of the supply chain conversation, part of the e-commerce conversation, part of the CRM or marketing transformation conversation. It's no longer, we got to have a meeting on generative AI and then come talk about supply chain. And that's what's different, I think, on that topic. Yeah. And also, though, I find it shocking and surprising the number of business leaders that are not already using it when it's readily available and inside your walls, whether it be from us or from one of your other tech partners. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's progressing quickly. We just had our big tech event last week called reInvent, did a lot of announcements around this. There's a lot of investment still happening across the industry, I'll call it, retail and consumer goods in this space. And there's real use cases now. So we're early days. Someone last week reminded me, they were like, Justin, remember when the internet came out? The first year or two, people doubted it. They were like, this isn't going to happen. And now there would be no business without the internet. Same thing with cloud. Not going to happen. We have pictures of Jeff Bezos on a magazine cover where they were like, will this even work? Okay, here we are. That was 2006. So I think we're year 2 of this,
Mm-hmm.
and with a lot of runway in front of not only us but the industry around leveraging tech in new ways.
I think what's interesting, when we were in London, the between Tesco and Boots and a number of the retailers in the conversation, and Marco, your colleague, was part of that, really talking about as we think about AI and just the speed at which they've taken, to your point, things that they've been doing, because this is not new news in so many ways, but using it from an operational standpoint in terms of supply chain, forecasting, on the brand side, getting my website right, getting the imagery, the content right, all of those things, updating things quickly, marketing, personalization, how we're thinking about what we're learning through that. So it was so interesting, because it wasn't like, bells and whistles, sparkles coming from the ceiling.
No.
It was more about, right, we're getting on with it, we're doing it, we're using it. And so I actually found that quite encouraging, because then it leaves you time, as each of the retailers said, to sort of step back and now say, okay, now how can we use it to, engage differently with our customers, shoppers, whatever, as well. And so I think that it felt like after that discussion that we were at the next, 2 years in, what will the next piece of this look like? So I thought that was really interesting to hear, as opposed to, either hair on fire, I don't know what I'm doing, or here I am.
Yeah. It's interesting too. It's created new conversations with companies that maybe hadn't traditionally worked with Amazon, or whether it be AWS or broader Amazon, Amazon grocery, Amazon pharmacy, et cetera. It really has. And in the grocery segment, there's many grocers that view Amazon as a competitor, but, the last 12 months, that very eager and willing to dive in on the tech topic, talk about retail media. Yeah. We could talk about that in a few minutes. Yeah. And some of the advancements around store, I think more broadly, kind of leveraging an Amazon partnership in a more strategic way has been interesting, right?
Well, and
healthcare and whatnot.
Yeah, so I think about it too in the context. You mentioned Amazon Pharmacy, and I think about, how that was, yes, there's a problem out there. What's the solution, right? And it's not just more affordable prescriptions. That's one thing. But then it's that ability to add the layer of service, subscription that fits within that model, other things that I can get to solve a problem, solve a condition that's very easy at my fingertips. So I think about all of that. The more Amazon gets to know me, I know there are all the HIPAA rules and all of those sorts of things that the retailers deal with. But, the speed at which that's begun to fill a void, both not just price, but information, efficiency, outcomes, all of that within this sort of new world that we're talking about.
My coaching is, if any of you are watching and not in IT, no big deal. But find something that relates to technology that you can lean into and just go learn about it. I'll give you a couple examples that will be relevant. If you're in e-commerce, dive into personalization. Doesn't even have to be what we do, but how are you doing it? How are others doing it? If you're in customer care, you take calls, or you're getting orders in, right? Dive into contact center solutions. Understand how it works. If you're in marketing and you're in CRM, or you're an agency doing, driving campaigns, your CRM platform is one of many. Mm-hmm. And one more I'll just throw out, there's this whole idea of composable commerce that you might have heard, or headless commerce, or API. Don't worry about the tech, but it's a more flexible way of having an e-commerce platform. There's so many ways you can dive in. If there's one thing I just encourage people to do, is dive in. If you're in data analytics, dive into the data platforms and the tools to get access to data, and try the AI models. Just
begin. And I think that's it, right? It's in this space. Just begin. Play around with it. Play around with, buying a pair of shoes through chat versus, excuse the expression, Google. And it's amazing how quickly, it gets to know you. And I know there are scary things about all this that everybody's worried about. All of it.
There are risks. There's certainly risks. And we're talking all about the opportunities here, but there are significant risks, and you all need to be aware of that too, or some of you need to be very aware of it versus others, but there are significant risks on the AI.
So I think all of that. Have you seen, as we move into 2025, are you seeing not just in the AI space, but any other things in the tech space as it relates to consumer packaged goods or retail that you are looking to for NRF or anything else that you see emerging on the horizon, speaking of future shop?
So let's take consumer goods. I'll highlight maybe 2 or 3 things. We won't go into a lot of detail because we won't have time today, but in the manufacturing world, a lot of focus on putting tech into the production facilities or better insight and then operation of those facilities. So you might hear that called digital factory, digital manufacturing, connected factory. We do that, for example, with Heineken. We're the connected brewery platform with them. So it's kind of interesting. In supply chain, on the CPG side, consumer goods side, a lot of interest in inventory visibility, traceability, right? That ties to retail. And then using data to better plan. I know we've been talking about this for years, but right order, right place, right time, right amount, right quantity, not having out of stocks. Like those are things that aren't new to the industry, but the data and the tech behind it is getting better. I'll just say. Okay. One more on the CPG side, consumer and shopper marketing, consumer insight shopper marketing. A lot of times they're doing everything in Excel. They're downloading Nielsen IQ data or other syndicated data. They're matching that up with shipment data and POS data and big glorious spreadsheets. That your job could get easier soon because of the tech.
And so let's also not forget the discussion you alluded to before around retail media. And, you know, I get crazy about it. It's not just screens, people. It's not just another pocket there retailers are digging into. But actually, if you get it right, you can take that data and you can personalize the conversation and you can solve a problem and you can do all of those things for a shopper. Of course, obviously you can sell some space, but, you know, I keep thinking about where that's going because that was the other big topic.
Felt like every event or meeting at grocery shop was tied to retail media. So I'd walk into one room and it would be retail media, and I'd walk into another room in retail media. I mean, I know the whole event wasn't retail media, but man, it was such a big focus. And so, and there is good reason, right? I mean, analysts are saying the big numbers, retailers expect big revenue outside of trade promotion dollars, and CPG brands are expecting a better way to sell products. So I think the next year will be a big year for that to come to fruition or prove itself out. Let's just say that.
And that's the thing I'm looking for. I had the head of retail media from CVS Health on, I don't know, earlier in the year. I said, but is this really where we're going to be at the one-to-one personalization? Are we really am I going to get the message that's right for me to encourage me to buy, solve a problem, So I have that vision in my head, and we're going to do I'll be out at CES. I don't know if are you going to the Consumer Electronics Show?
Yes, I'm doing a session on shoppable video.
Okay. Well,
I know.
Let's talk about that.
When you think about this, though, an app, like there is a very good opportunity for the one-to-one engagement on an app. I think in stores sound good.
Yeah. So for everybody who's listening, not watching, Justin just waved that infamous thing that
I waved my phone.
Yes, we all have in our hands all the time. Whatever we're doing, all the time. So he was just waving that. But that's the other piece I think about too, a lot. How do I, use that and not be getting rubbish stuff, but getting stuff that I really, really, really want in all of this. So AI, digital commerce, retail media, Amazon, all of that.
I think in-store tech is an area that we haven't talked about, but there's kind of two, I won't say two. There are retailers that are growing, expanding stores, opening new stores, investing in tech in store. There are retailers that are struggling. There's a couple that, as we know, the business model isn't working, right? And they're not investing now because they just can't really afford to. And then there are like new markets that are opening and growing where you kind of got digital savvy shoppers that are expecting that digital experience. And so I do think there's new, and I have to say RFID because I feel like it's going to have some play in certain fashion apparel and whatnot, but in other areas. But in-store tech is certainly a big focus, not only for us, but our customers. And, whether that be using cameras and digital in store or personalization and loyalty or cloud POS, like we have a number of customers now moving their POS systems to the cloud. And that, a couple of years ago it was, well, what about latency, or, will my orders go through? And that's just not a concern now for our customers. And so they're investing.
The other question I want to ask you about this past year is, so there was a lot of conversation about self-checkout versus in-person checkout. What are you seeing from your broad purview of where that's all headed as opposed to the go? I really self-checkout, right? What are you seeing in retailers where they're keeping it, not keeping it, doing both? What are they doing?
Yeah. So, for us, if you haven't been to an Amazon Go store, which there's, like, for example, I live in Atlanta, there's not one here, but many cities have them, and we've shown this before, but on the app, the Amazon app, you have an in-store code at the top. You scan that code, the gate opens, and you pick up product and just walk out. It's called just walk out technology. In fact, in Las Vegas last week, there are two retailers a retailer that has two locations. They have the just walk out technology kind of built into it in the Las Vegas airport. So you can try it out there if you happen to be going there soon, which you will be for CES. So outside of that, certain markets, like look at Europe, look at the UK, and many others, by the way, including North America. Self-checkout is working. There's a lot of noise around, is the theft concern an issue? And it depends on who you talk to, what you read, and which retailer you connect with. But certainly we've seen, with my customers in retail, expansion of self-checkout technologies. And what about you? You've done so many of these store tours. In fact, you were just in the UK.
Absolutely. No, you're right. And that's sort of what I would call the Amazon Go model versus being in a store where they've got checkout and people checking you out, and then they've got self-checkout, but with somebody else.
Self-checkout areas. Right.
So they're the things that people still seem to be struggling a bit with. But versus it's my phone, I can go. They also seem better with the theft solutions as opposed to us. We just lock it all up. Whereas, Tesco has created a piece that wraps around their expensive wine bottles or liquor bottles, kind of like a lattice thing that, if you steal it, it goes off and stuff goes all over you. Well, that's other solutions.
Yeah, I'll give you two examples, I think. Look at a couple of retail examples, and these are mostly North America centric if you are listening or watching here. But Home Depot has just expanded their self-checkout area, and they got a lot of small items in that store that are not locked up behind glass. And so they are expanding. I don't work there, and I don't know the insights on it, but the fact they're expanding that is interesting. Costco. Costco, as you all know, you fill your cart up, and it's most likely easier to go through the line where you have an agent helping you check out. But they got self-checkout now. So if you got a couple items, you're in and out of Costco in minutes. So, you see, even in some of the major chains, I will say, from what I've read and heard, by locking everything up, there's this tension of, do I reduce my sales versus, preventing theft?
Well, we see that certainly, and from our sentiment work, we see that people, the irritation, the aggravation, I'm going online to get it, or I'm not going back to that store because they don't trust me. So on a, future forward note, future shop, couple of things that you're thinking about for 2025, expecting to see at the National Retail Federation, at the Consumer Electronics Show. What are you looking for there?
Interesting.
Is we're going to see as we move into 2025?
So number one would be an increased interest in brand and retailer collaboration. And I think of that through like the lens of FMI. For those that know the Food Marketing Institute, I've already seen just from the planning for their meetings early next year, just a real interest in the brands engaging with and looking at new channels, being open to new ideas. wanting to understand data and tech in a way that I haven't seen before. So that'd be one.
Yep.
At NRF, there's no doubt. I think this year you will see a lot of AI for us and others. Well, I already know for us for sure,
Right.
and then others. But some really cool ways of activating like campaigns and creative and content. And, like one of our really cool demos at NRF that you should all come by and say hello, by the way. But is really showing how you select a model and let it based on what you're wanting to market, whether it be tennis shoes or other items, selecting every part of the campaign, the content, the creative, the listing, the text, the everything across channels in seconds, right? So think about an agency or a marketer. Especially in retail, it's powerful, right? It kind of brings it to life, and you go, we can do that now,
Right.
and we're not, so that's going to be interesting. And then there's all kinds of new engagement tools and tech that are powered by not only AI, but just other types of technology. So I think there'll be a lot of that, of course, at NRF. At CES, CES is a different kind of show. It's not retail. It's not consumer goods. It is truly like visionary, kind of really the place to go to really get big ideas across industries. And for those that have been there, it is the consumer electronics show. So a lot of tech is there. You see a lot of marketers there, a lot of marketing and branding, a lot of ideas around products. So I think that's what you can think about there if any of you haven't been and want to attend.
Yeah, with 30,000 of our most intimate friends, right?
Right. Yeah, but you see some things there that you just don't see anywhere else. And that's what they've done a really nice job of curating. And the speaker set is different. And the companies, every big brand is there. You it's really interesting environment. It's unique.
Yeah. And I think, my last call to action, which I think is also yours because you've raised this before, is, we've all got a lot of day jobs. We've all got a lot of things we need to get done. But it's really important that you get out of your own heads, that you see things. And sometimes it's with the older or more established associations. You just mentioned FMI, Food Marketing Institute.
Yeah.
As organizations continue to refine not just the membership, but more about, what they're trying to deliver to their membership. These are things that it seems like, I have to go for a weekend. I'm going to CES for a day. Would you believe it? You want to stab yourself.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll be my entree into what else did you see? So
we'll meet.
I'll be locked away somewhere. But that part of things, the ability to look beyond. And I think the other thing that you just raised was this, you talked about it in the context of FMI, this ability to build a different quality of partnership. I know that term has been overused with retail and manufacturers in any industry. Yeah. But the really good ones now on both sides, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're doing an immersion. Actually, I have to leave CES. We're off to Grand Rapids, Michigan, right after CES to do some work where we're bringing companies to that wonderful retailer, Maya, to really spend some time one-on-one, look at stores, talk about issues per day. Those things are really powerful now because then you can really have very personalized approaches to what you want to do in the future. Yeah. So to your point on that, they're the things on my list. Anything else before you're going to be my last topic?
Yeah, on that topic, I'll just mention for those of you that maybe haven't, you haven't been involved in the industry itself. Like so first of all, you can do a quick search and you'd find the top 3 or 4 or 5 industry organizations in retail and those also in consumer goods. And you'll see the ones, there's a couple that do some really good, I'll say overlap, if you want to call it that. And you may be a leader and you can buy a ticket or you get the tickets for free for most of these events and you can travel there and all that. But if you're an analyst, you're a manager and you just, you don't have an expense ability, right? You can still engage and you can still learn from these groups that most of their content's online available because they want to build their brand. And so this is just another opportunity to learn. If you want to win in the industry yourself or with your company, you've got to engage with the industry. Yeah. Okay. If you want to win there, you got to engage there.
I love that. I think that's a great stepping into the new year point of view because we were forced to lock ourselves away for 3 or 4 years. And now as we've moved out, we really have to, I think, aggressively move into this new world because so much has happened. And we intellectualize it and we don't pay attention. And I would say also, just to reinforce what Justin said, also really stay very close to your shoppers, because they have changed, as we all have personally, so much. And sometimes we forget that. So that would be my last leap into the new year. So as always, dear Justin, I thank you for that. As always interesting, always compelling. Get out there, everybody, absorb what's going on and act, leap into the future. So then.
Exactly. Thanks for having me. It's always enjoyable. I can't wait. It's going to be a fast start to the year. I'm really excited for the next year.
It is. Me too. I feel the same way. So thank you for the vision of the future and cheers for now. See you soon.